Hello. Let's talk about the changes Donald Trump is making in the Department of Defense for his second term. As we know, he fired Mark Esper and he replaced him with Christopher Miller. Um, Miller is the former head of the National Counterterrorism Center, and he's a former Green Beret. Now, we've been told for a while that the U.S. defense uh, policy will be to counter China, and it looks like Trump isn't doing that. We did make massive changes in the organization of the armed forces. For example, the U.S. Marines got rid of their tanks and their heavy artillery, and they're retraining as essentially the strategic commandos that the Gulf Arabs use to fight terrorism, but to fight terrorists on the ground, uh, rather than from a law enforcement standpoint. And the conventional armed forces have always been at a disadvantage when it comes to fighting what are called asymmetrical wars. And we have our own special operations units, but they're very small, and they were always tactical assets. They were not strategic assets. So essentially, the Marines will become a strategic asset that will be able to fight both conventional wars and asymmetrical wars. But they're doing relatively small unit, heavy firepower, infiltration behind enemy line stuff. Now, the U.S. Army is going to be divided into uh, two separate functions. One function is going to be one element. That's what I should have said. Element. One element is going to be the multi-domain task forces, which will be the equivalent of strategic commandos. They fight in all domains, including the cyber domain. And then you'll have the conventional forces who will have the tanks, and uh, in case we ever, God forbid, have to invade a country again and invade and occupy, the conventional army will hold the ground that the multi-domain task forces took. In the the Yemen war and the Battle of Mosul and the Battle of Raqqa were fought using this model, where the strategic commandos went in as the assault troops, and then the conventional forces held the territory taken by the assault troops. Because in the past, um, you just couldn't train. You couldn't make the Green Berets into a force capable of holding ground, and there's no reason to, because that can be done by the conventional forces. And so you train up the level of the conventional forces, but their main function is to hold and defend ground that the assault troops have taken. Um, so this model is going to work both against adversaries such as China and asymmetrical adversaries, the Islamic State, Al Qaeda, and whatever group comes after them, whatever groups. Um, so the Secretary of Defense is going to have a counterterrorism background, and one of the most fascinating people in the Trump administration is going to be the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, which is a civilian advisory position. This person advises the Secretary of Defense on intelligence, and that person is the acting undersecretary is Ezra Cohen Watnick. This is one of only a few fully verified photos of the man. He's been almost completely in the shadows his entire life. He's very young. He's only, I think, 34. Ezra Cohen Watnick has a fascinating background. He served in naval intelligence, and then he joined the Defense Clandestine Service, spies with guns. So he's a trained trigger puller, and he spent we don't know how long in Afghanistan spying and, if necessary, fighting his way out. The CIA has the Special Activities Division, and the Special Activities Group are recruited from the Green Berets and Delta Force and the SEALs and all that. But they're not spies. The Defense Clandestine Service are the only armed, militarily trained spooks in the United States. And, we basically don't know much about them. And they're part of the Defense Intelligence Agency. So Ezra Cohen Watnick is a trained soldier, and he's also a trained spy. And he spent, we don't know how long, behind enemy lines collecting intelligence and fighting his way in or out. We just don't know. So he's going to advise the new Secretary of Defense on intelligence. And this seems to indicate that Trump is not all that worried about China, which makes sense because China is whatever comes, below a paper tiger. The whole world has essentially, surrendered to the Chinese, but it was a kind of grateful surrender because the Chinese bought everybody off, and the ones who they were unable to buy off, they blackmailed. It seems that most Western men have a weakness for, Susie Wong type Asian women. And if you've never seen the film Susie Wong, I highly recommend it. It's an old movie, William Holton, and I forgot her name. But anyway, the Chinese were able to blackmail the hell out of people and buy them. So if you're incorruptible the way Trump is, and if you hire incorruptible patriots, then the Chinese have no power. And they definitely don't have advanced military power. None of their so-called advanced weapons have been demonstrated. And we do know that they can hack, but the hacking they've done, we don't know what we've done in retaliation. And it's been the policy of the United States to retaliate against state hacking actors. So that policy was implemented. I mean, it was actually acted upon during the Trump administration. So we don't know what we've done to the Chinese in retaliation for what they've done to us. I heard a clip from Boris Johnson today saying that Joe Biden is going to return British-American relationships to normal. And Biden has promised to help Britain fight global climate change. Now, Johnson is locking down the entire country. So the way that the Brits are fighting climate change is by destroying their economy. So they're not going to have any cars going. They're not going to have any jobs. They're not going to have anything. And they're doing it for the children. So the children will grow up feral. I mean, as we came to that fork in the road where you could go to the left and become worse, or you could go to the right and improve, a heck of a lot of people went to the left. I didn't watch it, but I saw a transcript of Dave Chappelle's Saturday Night Live opening, and he was, foaming at the mouth about Trump being racist. And this is incredibly stupid. Um, if Dave Chappelle is so worried about racism, then he has to stop driving cars because cars were invented by a white guy. So, you know, he needs to drive only cars that were built indigenously by black Africans. Good luck with that, Dave. Dave's a chain smoker, so he's going to get lung cancer. He definitely shouldn't undergo filthy racist treatment created by white people. So he needs to go to Haiti, and he needs to lie on a dirt floor somewhere and have somebody shake a rooster over him, and he could look around and say, "Damn, I'm sure glad that they ain't no racists in this room." Ugh. So the whole concept of racism is now dead. I remember before it became clear that Trump had one, celebrities, leftists, they were all lamenting the fact that Trump wasn't defeated in a landslide. So that means that America is okay with racism. Guess what, folks? I don't give a hoot in heck about racism. Um, you know, uh, Trump proved that racism is not a problem in this country. Trump did better than any Republican among all groups that were violently opposed to Republicans. So, you know, you people can go ahead and chant like brainless whatever chants. Okay, those turkey farms where they all gobble in unison. You go out and you like yell at them and they all go. So you guys can all go do that. You all go, racism, racism, racism. I don't care. Call me a racist. I don't care. Um, in Trump's second term, he's going to shift away from the conventional wisdom, and obviously we redesigned our armed forces, but we're going to be concentrating on counterterrorism. Just a few years ago, they were saying China was unstoppable. Well, China be stopped. So, anything's possible if the right person is in office, and the right person is going to be in office for another 4 years, and then the right person will choose a successor, and that person will continue, and we'll all live happily ever after. Everything changes. Everything has changed. And it's all for the better. So it doesn't matter how loudly the dying croak. They're still dying. Racism. Dictatorship. So Fox News has cratered. They lost all their viewers, and they're putting out ads saying, no, 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 all is well. It's like, what are you talking about? All isn't well. You're still, you're now openly showing your contempt for Trump supporters. Well, I'm not even watching Hannity. I'm not watching, I like Charles Payne. You guys need to get yourselves to a different channel. I'm not watching Fox News. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that that impacts you, but I'm not going to watch your channel. The only way I would watch your channel is if the people running it were fired or if they resigned and you like stopped with this demented partisanship. Um, this entire hatred of Donald Trump is the stuff of complete insanity. It's really funny. If you look at if you look up Georgia election irregularities, the press is full of complaints all the way from 2018 up to the primary of this year. And now suddenly they're saying there's no evidence of voting irregularities in Georgia. Nothing at all. And Georgia is going to audit every vote and they're going to do a statewide recount. And they said, not because we have to and not because you told us to, because we want to. Now, I was not expecting the outcome of the 2020 election, but I knew that it would be rectified, and it is being rectified. That's because when Trump, I was able to prove, all you have to do is go back and look at the videos. Trump prepared for being president. He prepared for almost 40 years. All right. He's known the Saudi royal family since the early 1980s at the very latest. Trump studied the Russian language for 4 years in his cadet school. So Trump hides all his skills and he presents himself a certain way so that people will underestimate him. All you have to do is study Trump and you can't help but being impressed. And people refuse to study something that they don't know about because it threatens them. They do not want to know the truth. And that's what Trump does to his opponents in order to win. So I'm not worried. I'm not worried. Neither is Trump. He's making changes in the Department of Defense in preparation for his second term. And everybody, Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, is fully confident that he's going to continue in his job. And these people aren't delusional. The only ones who are delusional are the press, because they said, we have determined that Joe Biden is president, and it's terrible. It's terrible that Trump will not concede. Guess what? Stacey Abrams never conceded in Georgia, the Georgia gubernatorial race. They cheered her. Way to go, Stacey, you show 'em. No, it's too stupid to talk about because the Democrats make, neck-breaking 180-degree turns every 3 seconds. And so does the press. They don't matter. All that matters is reality. And the reality is Trump gets a second term. And in his second term, the emphasis for our defense policy is going to be fighting and winning asymmetrical wars. And you can see that by his new Secretary of Defense and his Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, who is one of the very few men who was an armed spook. So I read a great article in conclusion about the problems with sending men behind the lines is that the Pentagon is dysfunctional. So they say, don't send one guy, send 10. Well, it's really hard to hide 10 men. So I have no doubt that Ezra Cohen Watnick went behind enemy lines by himself. Look at his photo. Do you see any fear whatsoever in that man's face? And we don't know his story. We will never know his story. And that's how he likes it. So be happy. Be a happy warrior like Ezra Cohen Watnick, because all is well. Click.